Welcome to week 7 of 3books2go. I'm Christine with the Cold Lake Public Library, and I have 3 books to recommend for you guys again this week. So I was thinking again this week about feel-good books, that request that I received to find some things that are funny or fun to read or, leave us feeling in a good mood. So I think I found some great ones. Before I get to them, though, I wanted to also mention that there's a search term you can use, and I don't know how common it is, so I don't know how much people have heard of it, but I wanted to let you know that it's out there so that it can help you possibly find some things to read when you're looking for that type of book. So the term I'm thinking of is uplit. So that's short for uplifting literature. And it's one I came across when I was looking for things in that vein. And so if you do a search for that, you might find some top 10 lists or some, best of whatever year, and you'll find probably a lot of those things that give that cozy, happy feeling. And there is a range on those lists. So you might find some things that are kind of at the darker end, like dark humor, but still ending on a good note, or things that are just straight up happy, nothing really goes too wrong, leaves you feeling really good kind of stuff. Mine are kind of middle of the road. The characters in my 3 stories are all overcoming some challenges, but there's a lot of humor along the way. So I found 3 great ones that take us to 3 different parts of the world. Actually, it's an accidental theme. They're all feel-good books, but they're also all road trip books, which, we're probably not going to be taking too many road trips this year, but if you do, 2 of the books are available as audiobooks, so that makes them fun to take along on a road trip. But I'm thinking most of us are only road tripping to our backyards, and they're great for that too. The first feel-good road trip book that I want to share with you guys today is called Tilly and the Crazy Eights, and it's by Canadian author Monique Gray Smith. She's Cree, Lakota, and Scottish, and a proud mom of teenage twins. Monique is also an award-winning, best-selling author and sought-after consultant. Her first published novel, Tilly, A Story of Hope and Resilience, won the 2014 Burt Award for First Nation, Métis, and Inuit literature. So the publisher description of Tilly and the Crazy Eights is this. When Tilly receives an invitation to help drive 8 elders on their ultimate bucket list road trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico for the Gathering of Nations powwow, she impulsively says yes. Before she knows it, Tilly has said goodbye to her family and is behind the wheel, ready to embark on an adventure that will transform her in ways she could not predict, just as it will for each and every one of the seniors on the trip, who soon dubbed themselves the Crazy Eights. Tilly and the Crazy Eights each choose a stop to make along the way, somewhere they've always wanted to go or something they've always wanted to experience. This takes them on a route to Las Vegas and Sedona, with a final goal of reaching the Redwood Forest. Each stop becomes the inspiration for secrets and stories to be revealed. The trip proves to be powerful medicine as they laugh, heal, argue, and reveal hopes and dreams along the way. With friendships forged, love found, hearts broken and mended, Tilly and the Crazy Eights feel ready for anything by the time their bus rolls to a stop in New Mexico. But are they? And I found this really favorable review from Quill and Choir, which is a Canadian book reviewing magazine, and they say, "It's not an easy journey, though. Among the group is a couple who have reunited decades after their divorce, an elder frail from a bout with cancer, the grieving mother of a daughter who passed years earlier, and 2 sisters who have never talked about the abuse they endured at residential school. But the voyage turns out to be beneficial for all, a model for moving forward and healing from trauma. It felt good," Smith writes, "real good to know that history did not determine the future. They did." I really like this story a lot. I liked the alternating sections. There's lots of characters, but once you get to know them, it's easy to follow and figure out sort of whose story is going in what direction. And the audiobook is how I listen to it, and it's really well done. The narrator does a great job with all of the humor and gives each of the characters their own voices. Monique Gray Smith's ebooks are available on Cloud Library, Hoopla, and Overdrive. And she has lots of books for younger readers, too. The audiobook for Tilly and the Crazy Eights is available on both Hoopla and Overdrive as well. The second book I want to recommend this week is a road trip that goes from California to New York to Beijing. It's called The Wangs versus the World by Jade Chang. Author Jade Chang is based in Los Angeles and has worked as an arts and culture journalist and was recently an editor at Goodreads. She's the recipient of a Sundance Fellowship for Arts Journalism and awards for design criticism. This is her debut novel. The description from the publisher website is, "This is a hilarious debut novel about a wealthy but fractured Chinese immigrant family that had it all, only to lose every last cent. and about the cross-country road trip that binds them back together. Charles Wang is mad at America, a brash, lovable immigrant businessman who built a cosmetics empire and made a fortune. He's just been ruined by the financial crisis. Now all Charles wants is to get his kids safely stowed away so that he can go to China and attempt to reclaim his family's ancestral lands and his pride. Charles pulls Andrew, his aspiring comedian son, and Grace, his style-obsessed daughter, out of schools he can no longer afford. Together with their stepmother Barbara, they embark on a cross-country road trip from their foreclosed Bel Air home to the upstate New York hideout of their eldest daughter, disgraced art world it girl, Sana. But with his son waylaid by a temptress in New Orleans, his wife ready to defect for a set of 1,000 thread count sheets, and the rest of them involved in an epic smash-up in North Carolina, Charles may have to choose between the old world and the new, between keeping his family intact and finally fulfilling his dream of starting anew in China. Outrageously funny and full of charm, The Wangs versus the World is an entirely fresh look at what it means to belong in America, and how going from glorious riches to, still name brand, rags, brings one family together in a way money never could. I heard a lot of buzz about this one before it came out from all the bookish podcasts that I listened to, and it was really popular on NPR, CBC, and with critics. I was surprised it didn't make as big a splash in the library, but I'm glad that it's a secret I can share with you guys. It's such a good one. It would be good for book clubs or for reading on your own. The story mostly alternates between the part of the family that's assembled, given the shocking news of bankruptcy, and then driven across country, and then also with the eldest daughter, Sana, who's awaiting their arrival in New York State in a small town and going through some drama of her own and isn't super looking forward to having her whole family show up in the middle of it. Reviews offered comparisons to the film Little Miss Sunshine, and I also thought a lot of the CBC show Schitt's Creek while I was reading, especially during the sections about the youngest sibling, Grace. It's really funny and cringy and sometimes very sweet. The ebook is available with your card on Cloud Library. My final recommendation this week takes us on a road trip to the Punjab region of India and is called The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters. The author, Bali Kaur Jaswal, was born in Singapore and grew up in Japan, Russia, and the Philippines. She studied creative writing at Hollins University in Virginia and has taught fiction at Nanyang Technological University and Yale and US College in Singapore. Her novel, Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows, was an international bestseller and a Reese's Book Club pick. She lives in Singapore. On the publisher website for The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters, they have a description. The British-born Punjabi Shergill sisters, Rajni, Jasmine, and Sharina, were never close and barely got along growing up. Now, as adults, they've grown even further apart. Rajni, a school principal, is a stickler for order. Jasmine, a 30-year-old struggling actress, fears her big break may never come. Sharina, the peacemaking good sister, married into wealth and enjoys a picture-perfect life. On her deathbed, their mother voices one last wish, that her daughters will make a pilgrimage together to the Golden Temple in Amritsar to carry out her final wishes. After a trip to India with her mother long ago, Rajni vowed never to return. But as she's always been a dutiful daughter, she cannot even now refuse her mother's request. Jasmine has just been publicly fired from her television job, so the trip to India is a welcome break to help her pick up the pieces of her broken career. Sharina's in-laws are pushing her to make a pivotal decision about her married life. The time away will help her decide whether to meekly obey or to bravely stand up for herself for the first time. The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters is a female take on the Indian travel narrative. I was curious about how different the trip would be if it were undertaken by women who are vulnerable to different dangers in a male-dominated society, Bali Kaur Jaswal writes. I also wanted to explore the tensions between tradition and modernity in immigrant communities, and particularly how those tensions play out among women like these sisters, who are the first generation to be raised outside of India. Powerful, emotionally evocative, and wonderfully atmospheric, this is a charming and thoughtful story that illuminates the bonds of family, sisterhood, and heritage, and that tether us despite our differences. Funny and heartbreaking, it is a reminder of the truly important things that we must treasure in our lives. I enjoyed this one, and I really liked how the author slowly revealed what private struggles each sister was carrying on the trip with her. I mean, when I say enjoyed, I mean I read it all in one day to find out what was going on. It was fast-paced and keeps you interested, and the stakes are actually quite high for all three women. The core of the book is the sisters' relationships to each other, and once those are mended, spoiler alert, they are able to support each other with their difficulties. Despite some of the real-world problems that are woven into the story, there's also a lot of physical comedy and dry humor here, and I had more than one laugh-out-loud moment. The Unlikely Adventures of the Shergill Sisters is available on audio on Overdrive, as is her Reese pick title, Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows, and that one is also available on Hoopla as an ebook. Hope you guys enjoy those ones as much as I do, or you find some other great stuff with your Cold Lake Library card online. As always, get in touch if you have any questions or requests for future videos. And just a heads up, next week there will be no video, so I'm taking a break from next week, but I'll be back again for video number 8 in the first week of June. So have a great couple of weeks and happy reading, everyone.